What's going on, YouTube? So the family 3-row SUV segment is booming in popularity, and many of the customers want it all. From luxury to tech, space to features, and even design to driving dynamics, the list goes on and on about what buyers crave.
And that's why it's important to look at every option, like from the well-known Toyota Grand Highlander to the relative newcomer, the Mazda CX-90. These Japanese SUVs have a ton to offer, but which does it better for you? Let's go ahead and find out.
Now today's SUVs can be had for about $40,000 on the low end, but the examples we have are loaded, raising the prices to the upper $50,000 range. If you're looking to buy either of them, make sure to check out carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price and access to invoice pricing information. But getting right into the exteriors, you'll see a signature design from each brand. On the Toyota, that means you have a fairly rugged and boxy shape that looks like a bigger version of the popular RAV4. Mazda, on the other hand, goes for a much sleeker and sportier look, with design details like body color lower moldings. And while we don't score the appearance of the vehicles, we'd love to hear what you guys think about their designs in the comments below. What we do score are the various features and differences, so let's get into those. Starting with the headlights, both models feature projector full LED arrangements, with LED fog lamps on the Grand Highlander. Only the CX-90 includes adaptive headlight abilities that bend with the corners though. By the way, feel free to keep your own score along the way based on what's most important to you. Walking around the vehicles, you'll find 20 or 21-inch wheels in the Toyota and Mazda respectively. Lengthwise, both these options are larger than their peers, at over 200 inches long, and the Mazda rides on a rear-wheel drive based architecture. That does not mean they have the same amount of space on the inside though, but we'll save that for a later discussion in the interior section. Out back, the trend of premium LED lighting continues, and they share towing ability up to 5,000 pounds. The mirrors on each crossover feature heating, power folding, and blind spot monitoring. CX-90 adds the high-end touch of auto dimming as well. But these are family SUVs, so what about the other active safety features? Fortunately, all of them are featured here, even highway assist systems for extra convenience. Well, that concludes the outside, so now let's move on to the more important interiors. But first,
If you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from our long-term vehicle videos to our side-by-side comparisons, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. So walking up to the vehicles, both models have smart entry and remote start systems. But that's where the similarities almost immediately end. Seats are the first discussion point here, where you find a suede and leather combination seat in the Grand Highlander, and a full Nappa leather seat in the CX-90. Nappa leather is one of the highest grades of leather, so the Mazda has the advantage here. And both SUVs will give you heating, ventilation, memory, and 10 ways of power adjustment. Let's fully climb inside and talk about the overall cabin quality, which we will divide into solidity and material selection. In both regards, you'll notice an appreciable difference in favor of the Mazda. When you press on pieces and do things like shut the door, the CX-90 feels solid and has more in common with a luxury vehicle. For materials, it's also a step above and has a variety of selections, including premium leatherette, wood finishes, and fabric accents. All that elevates the cabin's feel above the mostly basic plastic finishes in the Toyota. Starting them up, you'll be greeted by two fully digital 12.3-inch gauge clusters with customizable graphics. Additionally, these top-end examples also include advanced head-up displays, in addition to heated leather-wrapped steering wheels. While both include rain-sensing wipers, it's only the Mazda with a power-adjusting steering wheel. Now, the next major subject to evaluate is interior storage. looking at both the center console and the multi-use cubbies elsewhere. Starting with the console, you'll begin to see a trend play out. Mazda focused more on stylish design than practicality, which is why when we performed the signature Car Confections donut test on both models, it got left behind. The Grand Highlander fit the max number of donuts, 2 dozen, compared to the Mazda's measly 6 donuts. That means the Toyota clearly has more console space. And forward of that, the trend continues, with only the Highlander including a passenger storage shelf and a larger front bin. Despite the space difference, both are utilizing electronic shifters. When in reverse, they display 360-degree camera systems with good resolution. For the climate controls, we have 3 zone systems that, thankfully, still have physical knobs and buttons for adjustment. Alrighty, that brings us to the audio systems, so let's sample them. Here, both systems leave a little to be desired by prioritizing bass heaviness, and there's not a meaningful difference between them. Now moving on to the screens, just like a ton of cars on the market, they give you a 12.3-inch main screen. That being said, you may notice a big difference in the placement of those screens. The CX-90 is mounted far away from the driver because it actually does not function as a touchscreen unless you are using the wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto systems, that both SUVs have, by the way. That means it's much harder to use while daily driving, so Grand Highlander will take the usability point. Up above, both SUVs include auto-dimming interior mirrors with HomeLink built in. Only the Grand Highlander has the rear camera ability though. And up top, both have opening panoramic moonroofs. Moving to the back seat and cargo areas is perhaps the most important part of this entire video. Families need space and features, and these 3-row SUVs do quite well for themselves, boasting about 39 inches of both rear legroom and headroom. Neither have a significant advantage over the other, and features-wise, they have tons to keep the whole family happy. Both had climate vents, 2 USB ports, captain's chairs that slide and recline, in addition to having heating and ventilation. The sun can be blocked with sunshades on the windows, but only the Grand Highlander has a household power outlet for all the other essentials. That's not all though, since they both have storage in between the seats with cup holders. Mazda's setup is a bit more luxurious though, with a whole console just like you have in the front. Getting into the third row is equally easy for either, but the third row space leans in the Toyota's favor. Legroom is 9% larger in the Grand Highlander, and headroom is too close to score a point. That legroom difference can certainly be felt, and the thigh support in the Grand Highlander only adds to that extra comfort. For the loaded CX-90, you only get 2 third-row seats, which means that the Grand Highlander has an extra spot for the soccer team carpool. And for features, they have cup holders, vents, and USB connections. Now if you've been getting the hint that the Grand Highlander is big for the segment, you'd be right. That shows a lot as we move into the cargo areas. It has a whopping 25% advantage in all 3 seating configurations over the CX-90, which isn't packaged quite as efficiently. That is certainly a big deal for families who need the ultimate amount of space. Amenities-wise, they have power outlets and spare tires, and neither have the option of power folding third rows. But that's it for the interiors, so now let's take them out of the road and see how they stack up there. Now if you thought the cargo areas were quite different, just wait until you hear about what is under their hoods. Grand Highlander has 3 different powertrain choices, and we have the highest end version, which is a hybridized 2.4-liter turbo 4-cylinder engine with electric components to make a whopping 362 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. Normally, the CX-90 would have the advantage here, but it actually comes in at 6% less horsepower and 8% less torque from its still powerful 3.3-liter turbocharged inline 6-cylinder, making 340 horsepower. That horsepower and torque advantage can be felt out on the road, where the Grand Highlander has a considerable advantage in 0 to 60. Alright, as quick as that, we're up to 60 miles per hour, and then back down to 0. That was a good 0 to 60 to show you guys the performance of this top spec engine option. So, like we were talking about the spec dump, this is available in 3 different powertrain selections. When you go for this high output version on your top trims, that bumps it way up to 340 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque. Those are really good numbers for this segment of vehicle, and just really good in general. $60.
It pulls hard.
Yeah. Definitely. From the first time that we experienced this, it really was impressive in terms of power, and throughout the 7 days, it just continues to impress. As far as the transmissions are concerned, we have 8 and 6-speed automatics in the CX-90 and the Grand Highlander, respectively. Both perform well with their engines, and power is put down via all-wheel drive. Now, as far as the other element of the powertrain, let's talk about the transmission. We've got an 8-speed automatic transmission on board that goes for all 3 of the different powertrain setups. Nice and smooth transmission.
And I also really like that this Hybrid Max has a traditional transmission. So you may have seen that in our acceleration there. This actually has a 6-speed automatic transmission.
Let's also talk about on-road manners. While ride quality is more than satisfactory in either option, the Grand Highlander will be the better of the two, isolating out all but the largest road imperfections. For families frequently road tripping, that's a big deal. But Mazda took the sportier ride quality trade-off and instead went for excellent driving dynamics. It handles extremely well and exhibits very little body roll. Despite the Grand Highlander being far from sloppy, it'll take the point here.
Alright, but now that we're just kind of cruising down the road, I want to take a second to discuss overall ride quality. This is a family 3-row SUV after all, and when it comes to ride quality, we've been able to discern quite a bit about the CX-90 through the, media drive where we drove it for several hours. We also, like I said, had one on loan for a week, and now we're back in the CX-90 again. And when it comes to the overall ride, what we're going to say is it is good. However, it's definitely going to be on the firm side for this segment. Now, Drew and I described it like this in another review, but really anything in this segment is going to be quite comfortable. It's just going to be shades of comfort, and some of them are super, super comfortable. This is going to be on the less comfortable side. I have to say, very, very impressive. I absolutely love the way that they've done the suspension in this Grand Highlander. It soaks up the bumps super well. The seats are very comfortable over long road trips and long periods of time. So you're going to be nothing but happy with this Grand Highlander when it comes to the ride quality, that's for sure.
Also important is how quiet the cabins are. Here at Car Confections, we take sound level readings for all the models we test so that we can compare them. At 55 miles per hour, the Toyota came in almost 4 decibel quieter than the CX-90. Sound level readings are not linear, and the average adult ear can register a 1 decibel difference, so that will be heard here.
Looks like we've settled at 57.4 decibels. 53.5 decibels seems to be the number that we've settled in at.
Finally, when it comes to fuel economy, you'll see that both are quite impressive despite their high power figures. The mild hybrid CX-90 gets a pretty good 25 mpg combined, compared to 27 mpg in the full hybrid Grand Highlander. In our reviews and comparisons, we have also added in reliability and resale information to give you a better picture of the overall value beyond just the original MSRP. Beginning with reliability, we developed the Combined Reliability Index, which takes into account several studies from trustworthy sources and combines them in a way that gives you a more realistic picture. In this respect, Toyota pulls ahead as the top brand in the auto industry. It is rated 15 slots above industry average, giving it plus 3 points. Mazda also does decently well for itself and is 2 points above average, giving it plus 0.4 points. Related to that, they have the same basic and powertrain warranty coverage, but only Toyota includes 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. We also put Mason's economics degree to work to develop a detailed predicted resale value tool. After 5 years and 60,000 miles, Toyota has one of the highest values in the entire auto industry. It's 64.5% expected retained value. Mazda is not far behind and sets at 59.4% after 5 years. This gives the Toyota plus 1 point. Now let's break down the cost of these two and evaluate how much value each model is delivering. Both models have a pretty steep price tag, with our fully loaded CX-90 Turbo S coming in a touch under $59,000, all in. The Grand Highlander continues to set the ceiling for price in this segment. It's about $1,500 more expensive, at over $60,000. Nevertheless, let's account for the price difference using our scale. This $1,450 difference will give the CX-90 plus a half point, as mainstream buyers in this segment are still moderately price conscious. We want to emphasize that if money, reliability, or resale value matter less to you personally, feel free to disregard these points. So there you have it, the objective winner. Do you agree? Well, let's go over some pros and cons about why you might pick each one as your personal winner. So you would probably pick the CX-90 if you're looking for the most premium interior touches, the inline 6-cylinder with that refinement, and also the superior driving dynamics.
Now, on the flip side, you'd pick the Grand Highlander if you want more space throughout the cabin, the hybrid fuel economy, or the better ride quality overall. And speaking of those individual categories where one is excelling over the other, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. This midsize 3-row SUV segment is a booming segment with a ton of choices, and we've actually gone through and ranked them on the 10 most important categories to you all, the 3-row midsize SUV shopper, things like safety, overall interior luxury, space, third row, cargo capacity is detailed there for you. So if you want to make an informed buying decision, definitely go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings to make that decision. Now, what's our driveway picks between these two?
I'll pick the CX-90 because in my current phase of life, I don't need the maximum level of utility and functionality. I'd prefer the premium touches and the fun-to-drive nature of the Mazda.
Now, on the flip side, I think I'd actually pick the Grand Highlander. If I'm going for a big 3-row SUV, I think I actually want it to have a lot of practicality, and I would appreciate the extra space that the Grand Highlander has to offer. And guys, that's going to be where we leave off on this comparison video. Hopefully you enjoyed watching. If you did, we'd appreciate you subscribing down below. If you're looking to buy the CX-90, the Grand Highlander, or any new vehicle, we'd also encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use while negotiating. If you'd like to take advantage of that, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that down below, as well as a pinned comment at the top of this video. And that's all. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.